Today, we're diving into an absolutely epic story. It's a journey that stretches back 70,000 years and spans the entire globe. It's the incredible tale of how a single species of ape, an animal that was, frankly, pretty insignificant, just minding its own business in a quiet corner of Africa, somehow became the master of the planet. Yeah, this is our story, the story of us.
All right, so let's start with the central mystery, because it's a big one. If you went back 100,000 years, you'd find that we sapiens weren't alone. Not at all. We shared this planet with at least 5 other human species. You had the tough, brawny Neanderthals in Europe, the tiny hobbits, Homo floresiensis, in Asia. And we weren't anything special. So the big question is, how did we go from being just one of the guys to the only one left? What was our secret sauce?
Now you'd think the answer is obvious, right? We must have had bigger brains or better tools. But that's not quite the full story. Sure, our brains were huge, but they were also massive gas guzzlers, sucking up a quarter of our body's energy even when we were just sitting around. And honestly, in a fair fight, a single Neanderthal would have probably wiped the floor with the Sapiens. We were, in many ways, the underdogs. So it definitely wasn't our brawn that got us here.
The real answer, it turns out, isn't in our muscles, but in our minds. Something huge happened around 70,000 years ago, a dramatic shift. And this wasn't just some small upgrade, it was a total game changer. A revolution that rewrote the rulebook for life on Earth. We call it the cognitive revolution.
So our story really unfolds across 4 massive transformations, 4 great revolutions that took us from the African savanna all the way to the moon. We'll start with the cognitive revolution. That's what gave us our unique superpower. Then we'll hit the agricultural revolution, which kind of set the stage for civilization as we know it. After that, we'll look at the great forces that started to unify humankind. And we'll finish with the scientific revolution, the one that's starting to give us the power of gods.
So what was this superpower? It's all about language, but not in the way you might think. See, any animal can communicate about reality. A monkey can yell, "Hey, lion, run!" But only a sapiens can say, "The lion is the great spirit of our ancestors." That's it. That's the secret sauce. The ability to talk about, well, things that aren't real, fictions, things that exist only in our imagination. That's our secret weapon, and it's what makes us completely different from every other animal on the planet.
So why is talking about made-up stuff so powerful? Well, it all comes down to a number, 150. Turns out that's roughly the maximum number of people you can have in a group that's held together by just, knowing each other, by personal relationships and gossip. Go beyond 150, and things start to fall apart. You just can't personally know and trust that many people.
And this is how we broke that barrier. We created what are called imagined orders. These are basically just shared stories, common myths that we all agree to believe in. I mean, think about it. Money, it's just paper or pixels. A country, it's just lines on a map. And a story we tell. Human rights, you can't find them in our DNA. But because millions, even billions of strangers all believe in these same stories, we can cooperate in ways no other species can. We can build cities, create global trade networks, and organize huge nations.
Okay, so this new cooperation superpower led directly to our next big chapter, the agricultural revolution. And we all have this image in our heads, right? Of smart humans finally settling down, planting crops, building cozy villages, a story of progress. But what if I told you that for the average person, this might have been the single biggest fraud in human history?
The author of Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari, puts it perfectly. He says, the agricultural revolution was a trap. And here's the twist. We didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. We gave up a pretty decent life as foragers for a future of backbreaking work, all to serve the needs of a handful of plants.
And just look at the trade-off. As hunter-gatherers, life was pretty good. We had a super varied diet, we were healthier, and we actually worked fewer hours. But as farmers, our diet got incredibly boring and way less nutritious. We got shorter, sicker, and were constantly one bad harvest away from starvation. We worked way, way harder for a much lower quality of life. For the average person, it was a truly terrible deal.
So the obvious question is, why in the world did we do it? It seems insane. Well, the answer is simple and a little cold. While life got worse for the individual, farming allowed for more people to exist. It crammed more sapiens onto the same plot of land. And from evolution's point of view, that's all that matters. Evolution doesn't care if you're happy. It only cares about making more copies of your DNA. 1,000 miserable farmers are an evolutionary success story compared to 100 happy foragers.
So now we've got all these people packed together in villages, which are growing into towns and cities and kingdoms. And that creates a new problem. You need even bigger, more powerful stories to hold it all together. This is where we see the rise of three huge imagined orders. Three grand stories that had the power to unite almost everybody on Earth for the very first time.
So what were these great unifiers? First, you have money, a system for universal trust. Second, empires, a system for universal rule. And third, religion, a system for universal truth. And today, we're going to focus on what might be the most powerful and successful story of them all.
Money. It's seriously the greatest story ever told. Think about it. A dollar bill has no real value. You can't eat it, you can't drink it. The only reason it's worth anything is because we all collectively believe it is. But that belief is so powerful that two people who worship different gods and would gladly kill each other on a battlefield can still happily do business together. It's the ultimate bridge builder, the most effective system of trust ever invented.
All right, for thousands of years, humanity pretty much believed that we already knew everything important. All the big answers were supposedly written down in ancient books or passed down through tradition. The past held all the wisdom. But then, about 500 years ago, everything changed. A new revolution kicked off, and it was based on one single earth-shattering idea: the discovery of our own ignorance.
I mean, this was a massive mental shift. For the first time, we started to admit, hey, maybe we don't have all the answers. That's the spark that lit the scientific revolution. The simple, humble admission of ignorance. We don't know. And once you say that, the next logical step is to go find out, to explore, to experiment, to observe, and to trust that there's new knowledge out there waiting to be discovered.
And this new way of thinking, this embrace of ignorance, created a kind of supercharged engine that built the modern world. It was a feedback loop between three things. Science gave us the new knowledge and tech. Empires used that science to go out and conquer new lands. And capitalism provided the money, the investment, based on a newfound trust in the future. Science, empire, and capital all feeding each other, spinning faster and faster, and changing absolutely everything.
And in this brave new world, capitalism wasn't just an economic system anymore. It basically became a new kind of religion. Its central belief that economic growth is the ultimate good. The idea is that justice, freedom, even happiness, all of it depends on a constantly growing pie. And its most sacred commandment is simple: take your profits and reinvest them to make even more profits. Growth must continue forever.
So, this relentless cycle of science and capitalism has given us just unbelievable power. Power on a scale never seen before, and it's brought us to the final part of our story, the most dramatic turning point, not just in human history, but maybe in the 4 billion year history of life on this planet. We are right on the edge of becoming the very gods we used to worship.
For 4 billion years, life has been shaped by one thing: the blind, random process of natural selection. But now, today, for the very first time, a single species, that's us, is starting to break those fundamental laws of biology. We're beginning to replace natural selection with intelligent design, our design.
And we're doing this in a few different ways. There's biological engineering, literally rewriting our DNA. There's cyborg engineering, merging our flesh and blood bodies with machines. And then there's the big one: engineering completely non-organic life. We're talking about true artificial intelligence. We are literally taking on the role of creator.
But all of this power, all this incredible progress, it forces us to ask what might be the most important question of all. Are we any happier? I mean, we've got more wealth, more health, more comfort than ever before in history. But are we actually more content? A lot of evidence suggests maybe not. As we've gained all this stuff, we've lost our tight-knit communities, and many of us feel more isolated and alone than our ancestors ever did.
So, what's going on? Well, it seems our happiness works kind of like a treadmill. Whenever things get better for us, our expectations just rise to match. You know, you win the lottery and you're ecstatic for a little while, but pretty soon, that new lifestyle just becomes your new normal. You're no happier than you were before. We're always chasing a finish line that moves every time we get close to it.
And that leaves us with one final, and honestly, pretty chilling question. Our technology is advancing at an absolutely dizzying speed, giving us godlike powers. But our software, our basic human emotions, fear, greed, anger, that stuff is still running on an ancient operating system designed for apes on the savannah. So we have the power of gods, but the emotions of apes. Which leads to the ultimate question. Is there anything more dangerous in the entire universe than dissatisfied, irresponsible gods who don't even know what they want?